Hi again. We're a couple years later, but we promised to bring to you making our sauce after putting tomatoes through the mill. So what you see here is the pot with all of the milled tomatoes, and that sat in the refrigerator overnight. And this is the new pot that we'll be making the sauce in. So over here you see Georgie Calabrese, who will be walking us through this adventure. Say hello.
Hello.
And what we're doing right now is opening up some cans of tomato paste. The purpose of that is to thicken up the sauce, because as you can see, the sauce itself is pretty thin. So it's very, very thin, but all tomato. So we'll be opening up the cans of tomato paste and adding that into the sauce.
The ingredients we need: tomato paste. We are going to start with 3 cans of tomato paste, and then we usually add as much water as paste, but we're going to use the water from the tomatoes that we had left over rather than just tap water. Then we're going to add our tomatoes that we put through the Foley mill yesterday, probably 3 cups at a time until we check the thickness. Once we get the thickness that we want, then we add our seasoning. We will add salt and pepper, we will add garlic powder, we will add Italian seasoning, we will add basil and parsley that we grew and dried. So it's been dried, and we're going to add that to as our seasoning. Then when we get all that done and stirred up real well, we will add about a half a teaspoon of baking soda just to take some of the acid out. Then we will taste it and determine whether we want to add just a little bit of sugar. We can always add more seasoning. We cannot take away seasoning. Then we let it cook for several hours until it's nice and thick. If you want, you can add meatballs, you can add sausage, you can add just loose ground meat to make a bolognese sauce. So here is entirely up to you.
So right now you see we're adding the tomato paste to the saucepan, which has a little bit of oil,
olive oil,
in the bottom. And again, this tomato paste is what's going to thicken it up. So even though you're growing your own tomatoes, or if you're buying tomatoes and putting them through the mill, or if you're just using tomato puree,
out of a
you
can,
definitely need the paste to thicken everything up. I don't think the type matters. I like Hunt's. And this goes on a medium to medium high heat.
and we will stir it, and we want to cook it for at least 4 or 5 minutes. And I've lowered the heat just a little because it seemed to be spreading. So we're going to lower the heat just a little bit and stir this around, let it cook a little. And then remember, instead of adding water, we're going to add some of the water that we had left over from those tomatoes, which actually is very watery. So I'm going to add almost a can of that. Now we're going to add the loose juice. And we're going to stir that up.
So whether you add the juice of the tomato or you add water, you want equal amounts of tomato paste and whatever you're adding, whether it's water or the juice. And when we say the juice, when we put the tomatoes through the mill, this is what came out. But at the very end, there is just regular juice that is coming out of the tomatoes as they were quartered and heated. So that's this juice, and it's very watery. You can see the water actually sitting on the top there. So this is what we consider the water or the juice. And you can see this got nice and thick now with the tomato paste. Now we're going to add in 3-cup increments the tomato puree that was garnered by getting out of the tomatoes. We cut and quartered the tomatoes, put them through the mill, and this is the final puree we got.
Okay, that's 3, so we're going to add 3 more, so we'll have a total of 6 cups of fresh tomato puree. Now we're going to stir that real good, get that paste mixture mixed in with the puree. It's nice and thick, so I think I'm going to add 3 more cups of the puree, because remember, we're going to let this cook down a little. So let's add 3 more, which will be a total of 9 cups along with the paste. Okay, do you see how thick that is now? Now we're going to start adding our seasoning. So let's start out with salt and pepper. And remember, you can always add more, but you can't take away. Salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, some dried parsley, and some dried basil. We'll mix that in real good. Then we're going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning.
And And that was about a tablespoon. So whenever Mom cooks, I have to watch because she doesn't measure.
Okay, now we're going to let this simmer for a little while till it gets nice and hot. And then we're going to taste it to see what we have to add next. Do we want to add a little bit of baking soda to take out some acid, a little bit of sugar to sweeten it up, but it's going to simmer for a while.
All right, we'll be back.
Okay, it's been about 30 to 40 minutes, and I tasted the sauce, and it's a little acidic, so I'm going to add about a half a teaspoon of baking soda. And I'm just going to add it to the sauce and stir it around. And it'll take some of that acid out of it. And then I'm going to add probably a teaspoon of sugar. Can you see how it's bubbling, taking that acid out of there? Now, I will tell you that when I make sauce, I always add meatballs that I make, Italian sweet sausage. If I have a pork chop left over in the refrigerator, I throw it in. And of course, you're going to get more flavor when you add meat. But this time we're not. So there, the baking soda is added. About a teaspoon maybe of sugar. Now, here's where if you feel like it, you can add more seasoning. You can do whatever you want to it, to your taste. I think it tastes pretty good. So now we're just going to simmer it down, probably a couple of hours, and then it'll be done.
All right. We'll be back to show you the final product. Okay, we're back, and it's been, how long, Mom?
About 2 hours. We've stirred it a few times during those 2 hours. It's nice and thick, and we tasted it. It's delicious. So we are done.
All right. Hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy making your sauce for your next pasta meal. Bye.